So with that, we bring in Karl Rove, former Deputy Chief of Staff to President George W. Bush, and Joe Concha, media and politics columnist for The Hill. Both are Fox News contributors. Gentlemen, great to have both of you with us. Karl, let me start with you. Great images of the president in some fancy-looking EVs and charging stations that he wants to build across the country. Is that a winner for him politically?
Well, a minor winner, but whatever advantage he gained from that, he lost by the stupid event yesterday celebrating the so-called Inflation Reduction Act on a day that inflation went up. And what did the president say? He was asked, are you worried about it going up? And he said, well, it's only 0.1%. No, it's actually 8.3% year over year. In fact, energy is up 23.8%, shelter up 6.2%, food up 11.4%. Nancy Pelosi showed up at the thing and said, we are lowering the cost of kitchen table items for American families. Meat, poultry, and fish and eggs are up 10.6%, dairy up 16.2%. Fruit and vegetables up 9.4%. I wonder what kitchen table items she's talking about. Maybe it's something at one of those luxury home goods stores in Napa Valley, because it's not the ordinary American family.
Joe, mostly this Inflation Reduction Act, which doesn't really touch anything in terms of lowering costs until deep into the next couple of years, has a lot of green energy initiatives in it. It has some reductions in healthcare in terms of prescription drugs that also don't kick in for some time. But this is sort of the story, and they're absolutely sticking with it. Your thoughts?
It's completely out of touch, to Karl's point, Martha. I mean, it's completely off the grid, actually, in terms of voter priorities. As Jackie pointed out earlier in a report, when you look at Gallup and you see that inflation and economy dwarf everything else like they do in every other election, pretty much. And the thinking here resides in a fantasy world as far as, just if everybody could get an electric car, then we could help cure the climate. The average cost of an electric car hit $66,000 last month. That's a 13% increase year over year because there's this thing called 40-year high inflation. And we keep being told, well, electric car costs, they're going to keep coming down. But the opposite is actually happening. So the question bears repeating. How the heck does the average person afford to buy an electric car? You look at the average median income, okay, after taxes in this country. If they worked an entire year, they still can't afford to buy the average electric car. So Republicans should hammer this point home, because this administration is pushing a financial impossibility for an overwhelming majority of Americans, while they're canceling oil lease after oil lease in the Gulf or off the coast of Alaska, stripping us of energy independence while forcing places like Europe to depend on Russian oil. It's all bad, and this should be a central focus in the midterms if Republicans are smart, Martha.
So let's pull up this chart, the change in CPI for major cities, and you can see that in some of the areas where we've seen the fastest growth in the consumer price index, they are states that are important and where there are Senate races. You've got Arizona, Georgia, Florida at the top of that list, and also Philadelphia is on the list as well. In Pennsylvania, up 8.1%. But to Joe's question, Karl, what are Republicans offering in terms of an inflation reduction package that they feel would actually be effective in lowering prices in the short term?
Well, first of all, stop the spending. We have we've got a giveaway on student loans that's going to cost between $519 billion and $1 trillion. We've got the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, whose price tag is variously about $435 billion and up. I mean, stop the spending. The best thing the government can do is stop adding to the demand. Inflation is too much money chasing too few goods, and we have pumped between the American Rescue Plan and these other things literally several trillion dollars of demand in the economy within basically a year and a half. So the first thing is stop the unnecessary spending and tell the American people the truth. I mean, when the President of the United States says everything is okay and has James Taylor out there singing Fire and Rain. I mean, rather than a ballad about suicide and addiction and grief, maybe he should have done one of his other numbers, one of my favorites, It's Only a Paper Moon. It's a Barnum and Bailey world, just as phony as it can be, but it would not be make-believe if you believed in me. That's what they're trying to sell, is a phony view of the world as it is, and it's going to disconnect them from the voters, and they'll suffer accordingly at the polls.
Karl, the only thing that would have made that better is if you actually sang it for us. But I'm very impressed with your lyric recall.
It's a Barnum and Bailey world, just as phony as it can be. No, you don't want to hear me sing, Martha. You do not want to hear me sing.
Okay.
I can listen to this all day.
Maybe that's true. Joe, talk to us a little bit about what you think voters are thinking as we head into the 8 weeks before the midterm here, and they're watching this at the White House, and they're seeing these prices go up, and they're being told that they should just, buy an electric car and everything will get better. But you do hear a lot of people asking, what is it that Republicans would offer? And we're seeing these races tighten up.
Precisely. We talked about bumper stickers on the show last week. It has to be such a clear and concise message. I mean, I give the Obama-Biden campaign in 2012 a lot of credit. Very simple slogan to absorb. GM is alive and bin Laden is dead. OK, so you just need basically 2 sentences, something more along the lines of, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but, are you better off than you were 2 years ago? Or do you want to live in a less expensive country and a more safe country? Just make it all about economy and crime. Work the border in there as well. Obviously, the opioid overdoses that are happening, 300 people dying a day in this country driven by fentanyl. You just have to conform it to, or you just can really bring it into 4 basic messages that are pragmatic, common sense, and easy for people to understand. So when they make that choice, the contrast is there. Because, again, I don't know what positive things Democrats run on. And if it's the Inflation Reduction Act, even though it's a legislative win, it's a loss ultimately in the minds of the American people because they know it won't reduce inflation.
All right, just a minute, Karl, but, Brett's coming up, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Pennsylvania race where Fetterman is still ahead. What do you think the bumper sticker should be for Dr. Oz in that race?
My opponent is a far-out liberal, far-out left-winger who wants to tax more, let criminals out of jail, open the border, cut the defense budget, and ruin the energy industry of Pennsylvania. Sharp contrasts on any of those issues are going to help Dr. Oz defeat Fetterman because he is way out there, and he's not in the mainstream of Pennsylvania's thinking.
And Martha, I think ultimately once...
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was about to say, once a debate happens, and it will happen, now the Washington Post is even pushing Fetterman to debate before votes are cast, and that's on September 19th. The minute that he's exposed in that environment, I think that changes the whole dynamic of that race because he's clearly struggling right now. We wish him well, but he's not there right now in terms of speech or motor skills.
Could be. We'll be watching. And as I said, Brett Baer is coming up. We're going to dig into the midterm races as we are inside 8 weeks right now. Karl Rove, great to have you with us. Thanks for singing for us tonight. I'm glad to hear your favorite James Taylor tune. And Joe Concha, thank you very much. Great to see you both. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.